My name's Richard, and this is another episode of We're Not Wizards. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight is going to be a kind of like a getting to know you episode, and the title of the episode is going to be called Other Shelving Units Are Available, but I like to put my games in a nice old crate. There you go. Now I know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that, because joining me tonight I have a gentleman by the name of Phil Collins, who is from Board Game Crate. So good evening, Phil.
Good evening, Richard. How are you doing?
I am very, very good today. I've
Excellent.
had it's been a lovely bank holiday. I've been in the office for most of the day, so which isn't always a good thing.
It's not a good day to be in the office.
No. Well, it was raining outside, so I didn't really mind it that much.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad.
But you kind of you grin and bear it, and you kind of get on with it. Now, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure.
It's always good to speak to people and learn new things, as they say. Now, the reason that we do this, as we say, episode 96, people, is that there quite simply is not enough podcasts out there about board games. And the other reason that we're doing this is because Phil is running a company called Board Game Crate, and it piqued my interest, so we've brought Phil in, because he's not just a savvy business guy. He's got, as he said to me himself, he's got a whole pile of Calac shelving upstairs.
I believe other shelving units are available.
Terms and conditions on request. You can tell that he's played this game before. So, as we always do, we always like to find out a little bit of about history, about how people got involved in the hobby. So we like to have we're going to have a little kind of peer back into the past. We're going to have a little bit of a look-see at the present. We're going to stare off knowingly and longingly into the future. But we're all going to wait for Phil to tell us a little bit about his history.
Okay. Well, I got into board games many years ago now, through the wonderful lady that is now my wife, and through the lovely people at Eclectic Games in Reading. Previously, up until that point, I'd been a Magic the Gathering player, and in fact myself and my wife ran a subscription service before Board Game Crate called Boosters by Post, where we did Magic the Gathering cards, booster packs, and Pokemon playing card packs, and we sent them out by subscription. And it was after we had really got into board games and had really started visiting Eclectic almost weekly. That really hurt the bank balance, because we would always walk out with at least 3 games. That we thought, okay,
it's not a cheap thing, is it?
It's not a cheap hobby, no, certainly not. We decided that Magic the Gathering had really changed quite a lot. So Wizards of the Coast had dropped the base packs. They'd gone to a revolving 3-monthly expansion set, and it had become too much of a chore and less of something that we enjoyed. So we'd really got into board games by that point, and we thought, well, okay, board games is something that works. Everybody enjoys it. We kind of needed to tell everybody that board games weren't just limited to Monopoly and Scrabble and Ludo and what have you, and that there were some fantastic games out there that people could really enjoy. And that's basically how we got started. We had a bit of business knowledge in our previous experience. We really loved board games, and we thought that there was a gap in the market.
Okay. What are you... I mean, it's good to hear that you managed to get over the debacle that is Magic the Gathering. It's good to see that more people are realising how awful that game is. Brian Wade's going to go crazy when he hears this.
Yes, he is.
But, I mean, what kind of games have you got in your collection? What have you been playing kind of what was the kind of the first game? You mentioned, obviously, it's your wife that introduced you to the hobby. So what was the kind of the first games? What was the first game that you kind of looked at each other's eyes and you said you've got something in your eye, and she said it's you? And
looking into each other's eyes over a board game is not a good idea unless you're playing something like Castle Panic or something like the Captain Must Die.
Yes,
or something like that. If you're playing a co-op game, then look into each other's eyes lovingly. If you're playing an otherwise competitive game, there is no love lost between us. What was the first game I played with her? Probably.
Oh, this is like Mr. and Mrs.
It is, isn't it? It was probably the base game of Flux. Was probably the first game we played, and then after that, I distinctly remember playing Agricola quite early on.
Okay.
And then games like after that came games like Belfort and the Manhattan Project, the base of Machikoro. What else? Crikey, I'm just trying to imagine what is all on our shelving units upstairs.
Could you? I mean, are you one of the few people that could actually put your kind of your game collection and tie it up to specific kind of romantic life kind of dates? Do you remember? Yeah, I remember. Do you remember when we walked to Paris? Yes. And you bought me the expansion pack for Descent.
I can remember many trips to Eclectic where each of us are holding at least 2 games, and we've spoken to Daryl and Becky in there, and they've loaded us up with more, and we'll look at each other's collection, and I'll say, well look, I'll get you that game if you want to get me this game. And then suddenly buying 2 games is utterly feasible. It's a really nice gesture, whereas actually we just added to our collection by another 2 games, and you kind of think back, we were only in the shop the day before that, and we did exactly the same thing. Buying a game for each other doesn't seem so bad. Buying a game for yourself, you sit there and you think, well, can I really justify this expense right now? Yeah,
I guess it's like you're effectively putting a price on romance, which is nice.
Well, you see, we look at the price of a board game and we use a cinema ticket equation. So you buy a cinema ticket, and these days cinema tickets are horrendously expensive, and that might get you a couple of hours of entertainment. So then we look at a board game and we think, right, how much is a board game going to cost us? Okay, so this board game might cost us 2, maybe 3 cinema tickets. Are we going to get more than 4 or 6 hours of enjoyment out of this game? And of course the answer is always yes, because you play board games time and time again, unless of course it's something like Exit or Unlock, in which case there's no point in playing them again because you're just going to complete it far too easy.
Yeah, but then they're a small feast. I mean, they are like going out and buying a bag of sweets from a cinema. They're only about $12.99 a piece. Like look at it the kind of that kind of way. And the other thing is as well, and this is to further justify the ability to go out and spend massive amounts of money on cardboard, is that you could go into the cinema, sit down, watch a film, and be absolutely bitterly disappointed with what you see and feel that you've wasted 2 or 3 hours of your life. Whereas in a board game, you've kind of got that ability. You're going to take something home, and at least you're going to have a bit of fun with it.
Absolutely.
Because you've got a bit of an idea. Unless you're buying Magic,
unless you buy
peeksy as to whether or not it's going to be right or not. Okay, here we go. As you married men, not to each other obviously, because we've just kind of met.
Yeah.
Is there kind of games that you would recommend a married couple should maybe sit down and have a good kind of muck about over the kitchen table with?
Oh, absolutely. So here's a story. We had 2 weddings this weekend that we went to, and for both the couples, we need to send them on, but for both the couples, we've actually picked up copies of Patchwork. That is a game that my wife and I absolutely adore. We will play Patchwork over and over and over again because it's so amazingly simple on the first play. Yet suddenly, for the second play onwards, it becomes so ultimately strategic. You're thinking 3 or 4 games ahead of when that particular piece is going to come round to be in front of you for you to pick from. You're planning when you're going to get that 0-button T piece that you can automatically slot in. It is so outrageously simple to begin with, but once you're bitten by that bug, you are thinking about it night and day on how you can better place those tiles into your quilt. Patchwork, definitely. Flux is another. Isle of Trains, that is a fantastically, again, like Patchwork, it's a fantastically simple game to start playing, but once you get more and more into it, you realise that the cost benefit of picking up that particular wagon, which is going to allow the people or the person you're playing with to then put cargo in that, and what benefit are they going to get from that, and how is that going to advance their game against how is that going to advance your game. And suddenly you start off with a very simple premise that then introduces you to the much more strategic elements of those particular games.
It's making people aware that board games can have a kind of a depth to them that they've maybe not been aware of. I was thinking, ironically enough, out of all the kind of 2-player games you could play, Love Letter doesn't particularly play well as a 2-player game.
It doesn't, no, it doesn't.
You kind of need a bit of a backstabbiness.
You do.
And otherwise, it's just you're just kind of trading blows like somebody trades kind of vicious memories about the time other people did something wrong. For instance, yep. I'm not appropriating blame here, but it wasn't me, definitely not. But then, I mean, at the moment, is there any games that you are, you're playing at the moment that you've kind of grabbed and love a lot, that just the two you play, or that you're playing like a group or anything like that at all?
So I'm just looking at our massive pile of games that is next to the table down here, and I guess the one that we keep going back to at the moment is The Captain is Dead, because that is a vicious game for 2 players. It is a almost unbeatable game. It's got us time and time again, and we haven't yet found that winning strategy yet. So that is something that we keep picking back up again, and we keep saying, let's have another go. Let's see if we can find the winning strategy this time around. I'm pretty certain, actually, we just need more people at the table in order to beat it. But that's one we keep going back to at the moment.
The Captain is Dead is... let's talk about it for a bit, because I have The Captain is Dead somewhere. I have played it on a few occasions now. It seems to keep turning up in the most unlikeliest of places as well. But the idea behind the game is, it is basically, they pitch it, it's like the last 10 minutes of your favourite sci-fi show, where everybody is in a spot of bother, and the point is that the captain is actually dead. And you need to, remind me, you basically need to fix the hyperdrive.
Yep, you need to fix the hyperdrive whilst making sure that all the other ship systems like shields, tactical, communications, that they all keep going and keep your ship together, because as soon as you lose something like shields, for example, you might as well give up, because in order for you to then start repairing that, you need to move the particular people you are commanding into those areas in order to fix them. And if you've got the transporters down, then you actually have to physically move the counters rather than, or the characters, rather than transporting over into that particular area. So as soon as you lose one key system, you're really on such a struggle to actually get the ship back together and get yourself going.
It's kind of like if Pandemic woke up in the morning and it had just a really, really bad day, where it kind of went and got itself a coffee, realised it ran out of milk, tried to get a slice of toast, realised it ran out of butter, went outside and, tried to empty the bin and then stood in a slug without any slippers on. It's kind of like that, because it's deliciously vicious at every point in the way, because you get like, you'll turn over a card and then it will say something like, you've got potentially, this has just failed, or everything has failed with this, or you're losing time, or it's just one bit of kind of issue, one problem kind of mounting up kind of time after time. And I don't know how you found it, if like kind of tension wise.
Oh, the tension is unbearable towards the end, especially when you know things are starting to go wrong. Turning over those cards and finding out what you're going to get next, and you get the benefit of, once you've got a particular system online, you can see a card ahead. So when you can see that card is coming, and you think, well, if we don't get this and this and this fixed by the time we get that card, then we're in trouble. It's difficult, because then you come up with different strategies in order to fix those particular parts of the ship, and then you get into a heated debate over which particular strategy you need to implement, and in the end it's just a case of, well, okay, let's try that and see if that works. Oh, look, that didn't work. I don't want to say I told you so, but there we go.
Has there been crosswords over the captain is dead then?
There has been one slight crossword, in that I am adamant that the only way we are going to beat this game is if we have other people round the table, in order to help us and give us other people within the ship that can then go and do stuff. Whereas the view from the good lady wife is that no, actually we can do this together, and I admire that in some way. Yeah. I kind of feel like every time we pick the game up, we're on a lost cause.
But I mean, where did you hear about it first of all? Was it Kickstarter?
It was eclectic again. It was eclectic. We had I hadn't heard of The Captain is Dead before. I had gone in and had started talking to Daryl at Eclectic, and I must say other board game stores are available, terms and conditions on request.
Apparently it feels nothing is as friendly and nice as Daryl at Eclectic.
You are so right. You are so right. But yeah, no, he showed us The Captain is Dead, and we thought, well, this ticks so many of our boxes. How have we not heard of this game before? My wife and I are avid binge watchers of various sci-fi, and we're currently going through the original series of Star Trek. And I love how Star Trek, doesn't matter how difficult the scenario is in the beginning 40 minutes, at the end, in those last few minutes, they always manage a joke at someone's expense. You know, the world might have been about to be destroyed. He might have about to have lost the entirety of the Enterprise or stranded on some planet. They always manage a joke at the end. With The Captain is Dead, we have not yet got the joke. And
there's no...
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's just, you know, they've left the jokes to Spock.
Oh dear.
They've turned to him and they've went, tell us a joke, Spock. You know, and that's as bad as my William Shatner attempt at an impression goes. The artwork in it isn't stunning. It's kind of like, reminds me, I don't even know, it's like solid colours. It's very, very... There's a word for it that's on the tip of my tongue. It's kind of like, I don't know, 1920s kind of thing?
Yeah.
Just the style of it. It's very, very solid in how it's drawn. And it's kind of like... It's almost like... It's kind of almost... You could almost argue there's... The palette in it is... it's strange. It is kind of like, if you ever looked at kind of like any kind of 1920s, 1930s kind of poster art, anything that would ever been kind of seen as sci-fi, that's how you're kind of looking at. There's almost hints of it's side-on kind of Picasso in some ways, but that's me turning into kind of like an art critic. But the thing is, once you see this game, you will remember the game in terms of how it looks and how it kind of feels and stuff like that. So it's lovely. I think there's two different flavours. There's one that was originally through the Game Crafter, which you could buy, and then there's also one which is AEG as well.
Yeah, that's the one we've got.
Try to remember. Yeah, and it's kind of like a beautiful kind of sunset yellow kind of top to the box.
Yep.
And it looks like everything is actually going to hell.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything else that you've been playing as well at the moment that you're kind of enjoying?
We've been playing quite a bit of Potion Explosion.
Oh yeah, okay.
I love a game where the cardboard that you need to pop actually assembles something. So if you think like Camelot, for example, you're assembling the pyramid. When you pop out of the cardboard with Potion Explosion, you are assembling the tray in which all the marbles that make up the ingredients for the potions will sit. And I love games that have that element in them, because you're adding an extra an extra environment almost into the game itself. It is not simply here's a board, here's some spaces that you're going to move through, here's some dice, roll them, oh look, you've landed on a snake or something or whatever. With Potion Explosion and again with Camel Up, you're adding something, another entity in, another thing that you can pick up and actually use and play with. And there's a lot of thought has gone into that marble tray, and a lot of thought has gone into how that interacts with the game. And Potion Explosion, for me, the way that you pick up the ingredients, and if you manage to get a sequence where they click together as they fall down and land into each other, that you pick those up as well. And it's the aesthetic, that's the word, it's the aesthetic of the game is so pleasing and so wonderful to actually put together and use within the game, that I must admit I do keep going back to it. That is a game that we do love playing as much as we can.
It's very tactile as well, because you've got the centerpiece of the board and the marbles are coming down. And do you know what? There's a very, and I hate to use this, but it reminds me a little bit of these kind of the 3 in a row kind of, the sweetie smash, you know what I mean? I know exactly kind of games. Yeah. And I'm not going to name them.
No,
I'm not.
No, there's lots of them where you get 3 in a row and
and it comes down. You collect. You kind of these marbles are coming down a little tray, and you collect them, and then you use them to go towards kind of spells. It's just, again, is that something that catches your eye? Do you kind of look at like something bright and shiny? Do you like the kind of the bright and shiny, colourful looking games, or I mean, what's your kind of bag, Phil?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if I'm imagining myself stood in a game shop and I'm looking at the games on the shelves, then if there's something bright and something vivid, then a lot of thought has gone into something like that. So thinking of like the box art for Machikoro, for example, the box art that is beautiful. It really is beautiful. Looking at something like Belfort. Again, the box art on that is very striking. So that will catch my eye. But what I think sells the game to me more than anything is actually hearing about it from someone that has played it, and you can probably hear the cuckoo clock going off in the background.
Is it going off? Let's just silence for the cuckoo clock, or is it finished?
Oh, it's finished now. Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's a shame. I'm going to have to silence you out for that bit just so we can hear the cuckoo clock in the background. Is it a traditional looking cuckoo clock, or is it one of these modern looking cuckoo clocks?
It's a traditional looking cuckoo clock. The cuckoo actually comes out from the top, and
Has it got all the kind of the swirls and the wooden panels and stuff like that?
Yeah. It's got the two big weighted pendulums that well, not pendulums, but the weights that come down that we have to keep pulling up. We have to do that twice a day, because otherwise if we forget, then the clock stops. And then, if you've had to go from sort of, say it stopped at 5 o'clock and it's now 2 o'clock, you've got to listen to an awful lot of cuckoos. Or you can drink and wait, and wait for time to catch back up again, and then start it when it matches. But anyway, we digress. Where was I?
No, the digressions is fine, you know. If learning about cuckoo clocks is a good thing, the fact you've got a traditional one, you know.
Yes.
I'm just wondering what else you've got.
Oh crikey! We've got a clock that has the an old-fashioned mantelpiece clock, wooden, does the Westminster chimes on the hour and what have you. I've silenced that for now. But yes,
you've not got the one where you get the kind of the man and the woman kind of coming out at the bottom of the clock and kind of meeting each other in the middle.
No, afraid not. No.
Okay, that's a shame, because you were doing really well, and now you've kind of disappointed me.
Sorry about that.
Just a little bit. Not massive. I mean, you can still win it back.
That's right then.
I mean, you know.
Optimism. I like that.
That's it. Is there anything that you're looking forward to at the moment that you've kind of is potentially going on? Wedding anniversary lists, or potential birthday lists, or coming up to Christmas lists that you're both kind of dropping hints to each other about?
Not in terms of board games, no. I think the problem for us at the moment is that we are on a day-to-day basis absolutely surrounded by board games. There are boxes of board games all over the place. And sometimes it's very difficult to think further ahead than the next month when we're thinking about board games and the sort of board games that we're going to include in the next crate. There isn't a point at which we're not thinking of board games. I think if we're, without tying it to either of us buying each other board games, I would think the one I'm most looking forward to at the moment is Khan of Khans, which is a Kickstarter game that we've backed as Board Game Crate. And again, this is something else that the artwork for caught my eye. The actual gameplay process I really, really love. And this is just off going from videos and going from other people's opinions and how it's been put together. But that's one that I am particularly looking forward to, Khan of Khans.
Okay. So you sat there and you're doing, if we dial it back, you're doing your Magic thing. So you're doing the Magic Booster stuff, and then you notice a change in the market because Wizards of the Coast are changing how the Magic cards are coming out. So they're obviously, as I can see myself, they're kind of adding in new kind of core packs every kind of 3-4 months. Yeah. They're adding new booster packs. The meta game seems to be constantly changing all the time, which is exciting if you're in the kind of the tournament thing. When you had the discussion about, changing from doing the booster stuff to going to board games, what did you spend a lot of time kind of planning it? Because I guess, let's talk about the premise. Let's, jumping into Board Game Crate, the premise behind it is, and over to you.
Okay, so the premise is basically there are lots of subscription services available, and this is one that is uniquely poised at board games and board games that you and everybody enjoys playing. The idea is very simple in that we look at your board game collection that you have, and you can connect your Board Game Crate account to either your Board Game Geek library, or you can build up your library on our website. And what we do is we look through those board games and we look through your current collection, and through that we extrapolate a lot of other data, and we work out what other games you should have in your collection and what other games you will enjoy playing. And there's lots of other bits and pieces that go into it, but from that list we then obviously order the stock in. We package them up, put them into boxes and send them out. And that's as simple as it is, I guess. Through analysing your collection, we can look at the categories of board games that you enjoy, and the mechanics that you enjoy playing. So things like hand management, bluffing, luck, all those sorts of things. I've got various statistics and what have you. So we're looking at things like mechanics of cooperative play, categories of party games, or of humour, or of deduction, those sorts of things. We can look at all of those bits of data and work out games that are available to us now, what games will match with your library. And then we get a couple of those in for each individual person, and put them in a box and send them out.
Is it I take it is this a volume thing? Do you have to have agreements with distributors and stuff like that in place? Is there a lot of kind of negotiation that's going on behind the scenes to phone up kind of businesses and say, look, we are looking to put your game in more people's hands, kind of thing? Or how does it work from there?
That's becoming a lot more prevalent now. We're actually having board game companies come to us and say, we'd really like our game to go into your crate. That's becoming a lot more than it was. But we're lucky in that we've had 2 or 3 suppliers that we know very well, that understand the offering that we have to our customers, and they work with us as much as they can. Obviously, there are times where we might phone up and we might say, right, I need 6 copies of this game, and they'll say, you know what, we've just sold one particular box of that, and I can only offer you 5 now. And so we'll say, okay, well, hang on, let me put that back into the system. Right, we've got a maximum quantity of 5 for that particular game. And the system will then go away and think, okay, well, if I've got one less of that, what other game will this particular what other game will this customer like? Okay, right, I can see you've got that game in stock, so okay, let's have one of those and let's have 5 of those. And okay, those are much smaller numbers, but that's basically how it works. The system that we have developed and designed will tell us what games it thinks we should buy, and we will look at that list, and we might do a little bit of fiddling and tidying up, but then it's over to our suppliers and we say, right, this is what we would like to order this month. And so far, our suppliers have been great. I mean, sometimes it can, on a particular month, it can take us up to an hour to secure the right number of stock, to secure the delivery timescales that we will need, to get all of that down here. So we're lucky in that the suppliers understand our business model. We're not a bricks and mortar store that might phone up and say, right, I need to put 6 of these on a shelf. Where we're the sort of company that will phone up and say, right, I need 24 copies of this particular game because my software has told me that 24 of my customers are going to enjoy this game.
So who designed the software then? Because this is intriguing. That
myself and my wife, yeah. So we started looking at the idea of the board game crate in June last year. And the first thing we said was, look, this is a great idea, but this is very different from Magic the Gathering, because with Magic the Gathering, you get booster boxes, and booster boxes are the latest set. You put them in an envelope, in a nice padded little envelope, and you send them off. And hey presto, we're done. We look forward to the next month. With board games, it's very different, because once you've got one of a game, you don't want another one. You don't want 2 copies of Ticket to Ride, and believe you me, we've been there. So we thought, well, how can we get this information? How can we find out what people have got? So we went to Board Game Geek and we said, look, is there any way that you will allow us to use the library of games that you've got, and also using the API that you've got set up, how can we look at the games that the customers have got? And Board Game Geek were great. They came back straight away and said, yep, no problem whatsoever. We love the idea. Go ahead and use the data. So we thought, well, that's great. So Board Game Geek, we've probably accounted for more than half of our market. What do we do for everybody that hasn't got a Board Game Geek account? And we thought, well, okay, well, we know the board games that our customers have got, because we're pulling that data down. We can pull that data down off of Board Game Geek. So let's make them a really easy way on the website where they can just add the games in that they've got. And let's make it quick, because if someone's got 200 games, they're not going to want to sit there and type in 200 games, click add, move on to the next one. So we built in some autocomplete stuff that recognizes the name of the game they're typing in and allows them to build that up. So we spent about 2 months building up a proof of concept. So my wife and I, through our careers, are software developers. So writing the software to run this is, for us, was a challenge, but it was also a really nice challenge, because we love writing code, we love writing software. And it seemed a really, really interesting thing to do. So we spent about 2 months coming up with this proof of concept. Could we pull the data down that we needed? Could we look at people's games libraries? Could we extrapolate that data out, work out what categories and mechanics the customers have got, and work out how do we load in stock automatically? So we talked to Devium, got hold of their stock on a digital format. They email it to us. We worked out how to load that up into our system. We wrote the algorithms that look through all of that stock list and work out, okay, I've got these games and they match these categories and these mechanics, and I've got these customers and they want these mechanics and these categories. Can we work out what games we should order? How do we do that automatically? And to begin with, when we initially launched our first crate, so we opened the website up at the beginning of September, and we sent out our first crate at the middle of October, which was our very first October crate. And from then until now, the software has continued to evolve. So there are new features that we add every month. There are new parts to the offering that customers can take, that we add each month. So we recently added, I say recently, it was probably about 4 or 5 months ago now, we added the ability for customers to go on and say, okay, looking at my my popular categories and popular mechanics, because we thought we've got all this data. Let's show our customers what their library looks like. Let's show our customers what are the top 10 mechanics of the games you've got, and how do that look? If you look at mine, for example, a good 30% of my games are all down to hand management. And I looked at that and I thought, well, okay, that's interesting. So what we do is we show this to our customers and we allow them the opportunity to say, okay, I only want games that fit in with my top 5 categories or my top 5 mechanics or my top 10. Or I want games that just fit in with any category or mechanic I've got. Or actually, you know what, surprise me completely. I want a game that does not match anything I've got.
Yeah.
So we added that for categories and we added that for mechanics. And then we added in the ability to say, okay, I want games that work with a minimum of 2 people. Or I want games that work with a minimum of 3 people. Because I'm much more inviting people around to play games. Or I want to sit down with my partner and play a game over an evening. So I want a game that is going to work for 2 people and isn't going to be like Alhambra, where you have to involve Dirk. Is there anybody on this planet who actually enjoys playing a game of Alhambra with Dirk at the table? I have not found anybody yet. Dirk is a lovely person. We love Dirk. Dirk goes under a few other names when we play Alhambra, when it's just the 2 of us. But anyway, I digress. The beauty for us of being software developers is that we can continuously add to this. And one of the things we've just added is the ability for our customers to go in and look at the Kickstarters that we have backed as Board Game Crate. And what we do is when these Kickstarters come in, we're now going to be able to add those games into people's crates as a free extra, as like winning a competition or a subscribers lottery or what have you. But it's a freebie that we give to our active subscribers. And we've just added up a copy of Bears vs. Babies and 2 copies of Leaders of Euphoria. So all of the Kickstarters that we're backing them if we can at a retailer level, and we're getting those extra copies in, and we're going to send them out free of charge. Because you know what? Being a board gamer myself, there is no better feeling than getting a brand new board game. Getting a new board game that is I'm going to enjoy playing.
The smell of the glue.
The smell of the glue and the popping of the
cardboard. Exactly. The sitting there and carefully, regardless if it's your first time or your 100th time, of getting that sheet of cardboard and popping out all of those little tokens and doing it carefully, because you never get to a point where you can rush popping out those tokens.
There's nothing worse than popping a token out and hearing the
slight rip as it takes just even half a millimetre off the back, and it becomes unglued. And then the little rain cloud comes over your head, and you're just like, that, I've just ruined. It doesn't matter if everything else is fine. You just ruined an entire game.
Been there.
I've just it's heartbreaking. Let's be honest, and there'll be people listening to this now that will have stopped their cars, pulled into the lay-by, and they're now having a flashback and maybe crying. It could be when they removed their tokens on Netrunner. It could be when they were going through Cry. It could be when they were going through Cry Havoc. You know, it could be any of those points that they've just ripped it that little bit too far.
Yep.
Just give them a moment.
Or I tell you what, being too forceful when you're putting the camel up pyramid or the potion explosion tray together a little bit too forcefully, and you bend one of the bits of cardboard and you think,
just ruin the whole thing.
Yep.
Do you one of the things I've noticed in the crate is it's very streamlined. There's not an ounce of fat. And what I mean by this is there seems to be, there is subscription services available, and you get a box. Now I'm not talking necessarily related to board games, but there's like, I've seen video game ones, I've seen ones for various different subjects going out, and they seem to have a box of stuff that you could quite easily get it and then tip it into the bin straight away. It's kind of like joy stuff. It's stuff for the sake of getting stuff.
Yep.
What? Is it part of your kind of I guess, your MO to make sure that you kind of keep the boxes as lean as possible, which is like, it's here, have a game, here, have a potentially smaller game, here, have a little set of dice or a meeple or, you know, some little bag of sweets. Is that something that you are kind of wanting to stick to? Are you trying to keep the kind of the tat as far away from the crate as much as possible?
Absolutely. When we started putting together crates or mystery boxes, and we did a mystery box for a while and within Boosters by Post, and we found that when you research other subscription boxes, there is tat. There is stuff that you would imagine would be in the clearance bin at the end of the aisle in if you think of America in something like Best Buy or Target or something like that. It's just the kind of stuff that the retailers want to get rid of as cheaply as possible. And
yeah,
I think one of the things that was very key for us was that we never ever entered into that arena whatsoever. We had one problem with our January crate where we saw a brand new supplier come on board with 2 brand new games, and we thought, wow, you know what, this is amazing. This fits in with almost every single category and every single mechanic that we've got. This is great. You know what, we can get all of these in, and we can introduce everybody to these brand new games. And then the games came in, and we thought, well, we've kind of got to send these out now because it's too late for us to order anything in, and that didn't work so well for us. So we learnt from that. We instigated some new rules, so we won't look at games that have a Board Game Geek rating of less than 6. We won't look at anything that doesn't have reviews. We try and make sure that every single crate has an award-winning game in it. So if you look at Board Game Geek, you can look at the awards that the games have got, be that Spiel des Jahres or any of the other awards that are available, Board Game Geek Golden Game, for example, that sort of thing. But we're really keen to make sure that we don't fill it with tat, that people aren't picking things out and thinking, what am I going to use that for? Or well, that's great. Actually, what we're interested in are the games in the box. And yes, we've included custom painted meeples, and we've since started including some Chessex dice. And there are plans on what we're going to include as well as Chessex, and mix it up so that people don't end up with 40,000 meeples or 60,000 different dice, because once you've got enough dice, you've got enough dice.
Yeah.
It's what can we add in that actually aid that board game experience? What can we put into the crate that when people pick it up, they think, well, you know what, I'm going to use that tonight because I'm playing X game or Y game. I'm going to use that. Not putting tat in for us is almost like a mission statement. The games and the products that we put into the crate are things that we ourselves would want to receive. And being board gamers ourselves, that's really easy.
So what can you expect in a crate? What do you get coming through? What do you get in the crate itself?
So in the crate itself, you'll always get at least one big box game. So if I think about the games that we included in actually, can I talk about? Okay. So looking at our August crates, we are putting out combinations of Tokaido and Brewcrafters, Formula D and Aquarius, Sheriff of Nottingham and Port Royal, Smash Up and Zany Penguins, and Magic Maze and Fleet.
So it's not just one game. You're not just like saying, okay, you're not just going to say, well, we actually will do different games, and then it's a case of, well, it sounds like you have, these are all various different styles of games, from your bluffing stuff with your Sheriff in Nottingham to your, you say Tokaido as well?
Tokaido and Brewcrafters, that's a combination. So the software will match up combinations of games, and one of the things that we built into the software right at the very beginning is that the retail price of the games has got to be more than the cost of the subscription, because there's no point in receiving a crate, opening it up and thinking, well, you know what, I could have got all of that for half the price.
Myself,
Now we can't. There's no way we can match Amazon, because you know what, Amazon can buy in bulk, in mega bulk. So if you looked at some of these games, you might be able to save a couple of pound of Amazon. And so far, I tell you what, when we look at unboxing videos that people have put forward, and we look at the RRP or the price that they've got, 9 times out of 10, it will still be greater value in the crate than if you'd have bought. So the software will actually say to us, you can't put those two games together because the RRP of those two games is less than the cost of the crate. It will not allow us to send a crate out like that. So
yeah, but is it not the case that you are basically making choices for people who necessarily might not have made that choice themselves? That even I know you're saying you're doing the formula and everything like that. So you might say, okay, you will, you mentioned Formula D, which is a kind of a risk and reward type game. But there will be people out there that will, for whatever reason, will not pick that, even though it's potentially right up their alley. So you're kind of almost putting new experiences into kind of people's hands who maybe wouldn't have necessarily made that decision kind of like in the first place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I take an example, the Smash Up and Zany Penguins combination that we sent out, we had one customer that videoed their unboxing and they looked at Smash Up and they thought, oh, well, I'm quite disappointed by that because I've played Smash Up before with my friends and I really didn't enjoy it. Zany Penguins, yeah, I picked that up. I really like the look of that. I really, really fancy that. So I'm really glad I've got that. But you know what? Smash Up, I'm not so happy with. And I guess one of the benefits of the board game world is that you can immediately then put that up onto Board Game Geek and trade it in for something else. Yeah. We've had another customer who had a collection, a few crates, and actually what they had done is put the games onto Board Game Geek, and they'd actually made a profit off of the games they'd sold through Board Game Geek from the cost of the crate. So you know what? Win-win. They've kept some of the games, but they've moved on some of the others. Then if you compare again the same combination, Smash Up and Zany Penguins, another unboxing video of another customer, they opened it up and they went, wow, I've looked at this game time and time again on the shelves of my local shop and I've not picked it up, and here it is, and I am so happy that I've got this game. And Smash Up was matched to both of those customers based on the preferences that they had picked and the games that they already had in their combination. So you know what, it was one of the things that Matt Jarvis said, who you had on very recently in Tabletop Magazine when he reviewed the crate. He said, if you know the exact games you want and you know when you are going to get them and you are very finite in what you love within your board game, then maybe Board Game Crate isn't for you. And I completely agree with him, because if you know that your window of board game enjoyment is small, then it's likely that you are going to get games in the odd crate here and then that you are not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, if you love board gaming almost in its entirety, and you know that if a board game is matched to your particular likes and dislikes that you are going to enjoy, then Board Game Crate is for you, because it makes you a saving. It gives you games that we know that you are going to enjoy, I say we know we're going to enjoy, but obviously my previous example didn't quite work that out. But you know what? We match almost 95% of our customers and their wishes, and you're always going to get the 5% that we don't get it quite right. But you know what? The thing is, those customers come back and they resubscribe. They sign up for another monthly subscription, or they sign up for a prepaid, and they go through the run again. Because when we look at their Board Game Geek profiles, we also look at their wish lists. And if we can pick up a game from their wish list, then we will do. And we will put it in their next crate, and we will send it out to them. And that, I think, is maybe that's what keeps pulling them back.
That's Christmas, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it is. It's kind of Christmas. If people want to are looking, I mean, how much? I mean, you're talking. Well, we want to be kind of below retail. So, how much are you talking about for a? How does the pricings work?
So pricing. We've got 4 different levels of pricing. There's a recurring subscription, which is where you pay monthly, and that's $38.99. And you can either have 1 box a month, you can have 1 box every other month, or 1 box a quarter. There are 3 prepaid plans. There's the 3-month prepaid plan where you're basically paying $99.99. and you will get three crates over the next 3 months. There's the 6-month plan, which is $194.99, or there's the 12-month plan, which is $374.99. So obviously, once you get up to 12-month, they are very, very expensive. But the savings that you make over the course of the 12 months basically means that you're paying for 10 crates and you're getting 2 for free. So we kind of make sure that if somebody is willing to lay down that amount of money, that they're actually getting a benefit from that. From the off. But on the flip side, you know what? If you want to just try it for a month, then take out a recurring subscription, try it, cancel it if you don't like it, keep it running if you do.
I mean, have you got plans for the future? I mean, is there going to be, you've got board game crate. Are you going to do, an RPG crate? Is there plans to kind of expand into different things? Is there going to be a LARPing crate? Are people going to get a nice sword and a shiny shield?
I think one of the things that we've always tried to do is but the same with when we did Boosters by Post, and okay, that dropped off a little bit, but we try and do something in which in an arena in which we are involved. So if we went into LARPing, it would be very difficult for us to put a LARP box together because we're not live action role players ourselves.
So it'd be heavy as well.
It would be quite a heavy box. I mean, some of those shields do weigh a little bit, and I'm not sure posting imitation medieval weaponry through Royal Mail is quite accepted just yet. But in terms of the board game crate, we have plans for the future. We've got 2 in the mix at the moment, and one of them is a quarterly big box crate. So if you can imagine $38.99 a month of what customers are paying for us. There are some games that we couldn't use that to buy a game at our distributors. So if you think of games like Scythe, for example, there's no way we could afford to buy in boxes and boxes of Scythe because we're never going to be able to buy it at a price which is going to allow us to put 2 games into a crate.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about putting together a quarterly big box crate, which is a bit more expensive. We're currently looking at about maybe $59.99, but in there you're going to get games which are the top caliber level of expense, if you imagine. And the other idea that we're currently circulating is the intro crate, so the board game intro crate, and this is a defined set of 3 crates that will roll out over the course of a quarter of a year, and we'll use those crates to introduce new players to the world of board games. So we're looking at some of the basics, I say basics, but the games you might give people who have never played board games together before. So we're looking at things like Ticket to Ride, Dixit, Camel Up, Isle of Trains, Hanabi, those sorts of games that you can use to introduce people to the wonderful world of board games.
See, that's an idea. I like that. I like the idea of being able to, because sometimes it's the recommendations from other people, but again, sometimes it's giving somebody like a nice surprise. I
was going to say, one of the other things that we're currently mulling is the Christmas party box. So I don't know whether you've ever experienced this, but I certainly have. When you're invited round to friends or family for a Christmas celebration or a party of some description, they always say, well, you're into board games, why don't you bring some round that the whole family can play? And I sat there thinking, wow, okay, right, what could we possibly bring round that everybody is going to enjoy, that someone's not going to look at and think, oh, crumbs, how do we play that? Or they're going to argue over the instructions. I remember, and I love my mother-in-law to bits, I really do, but I remember playing Catan with her one particular summer holiday, and having to defend the rules of Catan to my mother-in-law was really quite difficult. Well, what do you mean I can't have sheep? Why can't I have sheep? Well, sheep aren't on any of the tiles that you've just rolled. So going back to the whole idea of a Christmas party box, and we're thinking games like Spyfall, for example, which is a great game to play around other people for Christmas. Things like Time's Up, Raise Your Goblets, that's a great fun game.
Codenames?
Yes, Codenames, absolutely. Although, again, sometimes explaining the rules of what you can and can't say when you're trying to get people to guess your words.
It's a banana. No, it's it's there. Look, there's a banana there. No, you're meant to say fruit. No, but that's a banana. Banana's technically a herb. All right then. All right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So games like that if somebody said to you, well, you're into board games, you can bring some games round for Christmas, you can say, right, you know what, I've got a box here, let's take those round.
So it sounds like you got kind of exciting plans for the future.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots...
Yeah. No,
there's lots of other stuff that we've got planned for the software as well. So the ability for people to say, these are categories of mechanics that I don't like. So one customer who received Sheriff of Nottingham this month actually emailed us in and said, yeah, it looks like a great game, but you know what? I can't stand bluffing games. Why is there any way I can say I don't want any games that include bluffing? Because we match them on other categories of Sheriff of Nottingham. So we matched them on categories and mechanics that fit within that game, but there was one particular one that just didn't like that particular aspect. So we're always thinking of new ways to improve the customization options that customers have as well. So adding in categories and mechanics that you wouldn't want in a game is another avenue. Obviously, we can't go down to exact specifics because then it becomes too much of a, well, this is the only game that's going to fit into your collection, into your customization preferences that you put together. So we can't go too far down that road, but we can allow people to almost give it an element of personal shopper.
Yeah, but I also think that the type of people that would get involved in this, they're kind of going to be open-minded. They're not going to be that specific, because if they wanted to be that specific, then they would go to an online retail outlet or a retail outlet or Eclectic Games, because they sound lovely, and buy it from them directly. You know, I think it's you'll have a certain type of customer that likes the fun of getting something every month that they're not aware that it kind of is.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Which is always kind of cool. I want to paint a picture of another future for you, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
The future of the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, this is a game that it's become an actual regular feature now. You are you're in the zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
You're running down the road, desperately seeking for shelter.
Okay.
You happen upon a glass door which has a wonderful sign above it saying "Board Games for Everyone." You run into the shop and you enter into an emporium, the likes of which you have never seen. Shelf upon shelf is full of board games.
Mm-hmm.
Of every type of game possible, of every expansion. There is a well-defended but very movable trolley in the middle of the foyer, which you can quite easily take with you.
Okay.
But the trolley itself is only big to fit 3 board games. You're heading out into the zombie apocalypse. You may meet 2 people, you may meet 10 people, but every single person that you're going to meet, if you ask them if they want to play a board game, the answer they're going to say is going to be a yes. What 3 games do you take with yourself, Mr. Phil Collins?
Oh, crikey. Okay. Right. So, Pitch Car is probably quite high up that list.
Okay, yeah, that is the dexterity game, which is a racing game, which you flick around the board. Yeah,
you do. I could move on from there and go to Flick 'em Up, but I kind of feel as though the dexterity side has been sorted with Pitch Car.
There is Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter coming out, which would keep within the zombie theme. And I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, well, tell you what. Yes, let's switch out from that one then. Let's keep with the zombie theme.
Okay.
Do we have to keep to the zombie theme, or can
you don't
we
have to at all? You can
out?
do anything you want. It's any game from any time.
Because if we're keeping to the zombie theme, then there's of course City of Zombies.
Yes,
which is a good game.
But it's any game at all. Any doesn't have to be zombie related. So
game at all.
Are we locking in Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter?
I think we are, because I tell you, Flick 'em Up is a good game, and that does solve the dexterity side. So Pitch Car, fantastic, love that game. But Flick 'em Up, yeah, that probably has an extra something to it. So let's go with that one.
Okay, your second choice, Mr. Collins.
Oh, Craig, could you hear my wheels turning?
I love this question. It's so good.
All the games in the world.
Every single one.
Dixit.
Dixit. That's an interesting choice.
Dixit.
Okay.
Dixit would be a good game to play.
Okay.
And third.
Your third choice. Any game at all?
I'm kind of nailing my sheets
Anything
to the mast
at all.
here, aren't I? Right? Yeah.
And even the Final Fantasy out of print stuff. Tell you what, there's a pile on the table of Chaos of the Old World, Forbidden Stars, just sitting there waiting for people to pick up. There's no £150 price tag on these bad boys. They're practically sitting there. They look like little lost kittens just waiting for you to pick them up and hold them tight, except they're bulkier and bigger and quite heavy. Third game. It's banging on the doors, Phil. Gotta hurry you.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, I can hear that. I can close my eyes. I can hear them.
Yes, you can.
Oh. It's kind of like the end of the world.
Analysis paralysis is settling in, like you're playing something like Star Realms or something like that.
This is a terrible question for a podcast, unless you edit out all the silence.
No, the tension is,
The tension is
it's it's Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it's
See, the thing is, I can just imagine my wife now sitting across from me, and she's shaking her hands at me,
screaming at you just now. She's actually screaming. This is Mr. and Mrs. And you are in. She is in the booth, can't hearing anything, and you're outside screaming that you hope you knows the answer.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness! See, the thing is, I'm gonna give you a third game,
right.
And then as soon as I go upstairs and go and speak to her, I'm immediately going to think, oh, why didn't I say that?
Third game.
Oh.
One of the side windows is broken. There's arms with grey rotten flesh flailing about madly.
Oh my goodness me.
They've just picked up a copy of Whitechapel and tried to eat the brains.
Oh no.
Come on, Phil. Time's a ticking. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Last game.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go for one that I think I've already mentioned.
What?
I'm trying to decide between. Oh man, this is so unfair.
It's not, because other people have just went like that. 1, 2, 3, and snapped off like that. You're the only one that's holding this whole thing up.
I'm the only one that's holding everything up.
The whole thing. I'm not judging.
You know what? I'm gonna go for. So what have we got already? We've got Flick 'em Up. We've got
Dixit.
Oh, blimey,
if you don't
O'Reilly.
decide soon, it's Monopoly.
It's not going to be Monopoly. Oh, crikey. I'm tempted to say something like Ticket to Ride, or maybe Power Grid.
Power Grid's fine. Power Grid's good. It's mathematical. It'll keep your mind working.
Yeah.
Power Grid.
Planning for an escape from the zombie horde whilst they ravage the board game shop. Yeah. Let's go for Power Grid. We haven't mentioned Power Grid, so yeah. Wow.
Right. There you go. So your 3 games. Power
Just
Grid.
wiping the sweat off my forehead now.
Flick 'em Up.
Cool.
And Dixit. There you go. It's a fun game, innit, Phil?
Yeah. Oh dear.
Okay. Well, if people have listened to that last bit was just gold. I can't even begin to want to edit that bit. But if people are interested and have listened along tonight and are saying, well, listen, I want to find out a little bit more, how do they find about Board Game Crate? Where do you exist in the world of the interweb nets?
Okay, so we are over on boardgamecrate.co.uk.
Yep.
We're also on Facebook at Board Game Crate, and we're also on Twitter and Instagram as well. But the website and Facebook, I guess, are where we post more often than not. So that's boardgamecrate.co.uk or facebook.com/boardgamecrate. Fantastic.
Now, this has been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun. That last 5 minutes was a lot of fun.
It really has.
I've seen you go full AP was just...
Oh, dearie me. I'm going to kick myself. As soon as I go upstairs and I look at my board game library, I'm going to think, you know what?
Do you know what we should say to people? As if they've listened tonight and they have, and they want to give an alternative game to Phil, they should just tweet us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just go on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. If you want to find us on Facebook, We're Not Wizards. If you want to find us on YouTube, guess what? It's We're Not Wizards Tabletop. You can get us on your normal podcast places, which is your Spreaker, your Stitcher, your Acast, your Podcast Addict, every place like that. You can find us. If you like what you've listened to tonight, and you want to spread the joy and spread the love, and make sure more people are listening to the show, then one of the things you can do is you can go onto Apple Podcasts and you can leave us a rating, and you can even leave us a review, or even if you subscribe, that would make us quite smiley. Now, if you are going to leave us a review, what we say is, don't leave us a 10, because that'll make us big-headed. But don't leave us a 1, because that'll make us cry. Leave us a 5, because that's kind of in the middle. It's average. And we are decidedly average. But the gentleman who's not been average tonight is the rather interesting, the rather fantastic, the rather man who's trying to do something different with the board game retail space. It is Mr. Phil Collins from Board Game Crate. So again, thank you very much for coming on, Phil.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Now, there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Phil?
I try not to be on most weekends, yeah.
And that's why you ditched that magic nonsense, and all power to you. And the second thing to do, and Brian's going to be seething, and the second thing to do is to say goodbye. So, as I say, it's goodbye from the rather wonderful Mr. Phil Collins. Say goodbye, Phil.
Goodbye, Phil.
I'm not telling you, going to let you decide how you say goodbye, because we'd be here for another 10 minutes. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s. If you fancy a little bit of a monthly surprise, it doesn't happen to be kind of like maybe somebody jumping out from you behind an alley or something like that, and fancy getting a little bit of surprisery cardboard in your letterbox, then yeah, give Board Game Crate a little look-see. You might be very pleasantly surprised by what you get. But until the next time, my good people, thank you for listening, and goodbye.